And if you listen to their stories, you will never find the truth.
Find the truth.
And if you read what they are writing, you find your neck inside a noose.
Welcome to Extreme Brains, the podcast that embraces the chaos of a world gone wild. I'm David Evanoff, along with my fellow brainers and chaos enthusiasts, Sam Goldstein and James Woods. We are broadcasting to you from the semi-luxurious Evanoff Studios, located on the west side of the over-industrialized haven of South Salt Lake City, Utah. South Salt Lake City, Utah, the only place you can be south and west at the same time. Each week we'll dive headfirst into the absurdities of modern life, sharing sharp critiques, unfiltered humor, and just the right amount of existential dread. Our tagline, 3 voices, 1 mic, in a world gone wild. Welcome in, Brainers. It's another show, episode 5. And Sam, today it is the teenage brain in a modern world. What do we need to know?
Well, I guess first thing we have to do is ask evolution why we have teenagers. Why don't you just go from being a child to immediately transitioning to, okay, now I'm an adult? And in higher complex species, you can think about bunny rabbits or dogs. They transition very quickly from childhood to adulthood, right? You're raising rabbits, and when they're 4 months old, they're ready to procreate. and yet our species, as we've talked about, takes a very long time until they're ready to be adults, right? So in that period of length, we create these stages: childhood, latency, which is between childhood and adolescence. Now we call them tweens, and then there are teenagers, and then there are adults. So why should we devote a program to this? Well, if you gaze into the eyes of a teenager, you're gazing into the future, a future that we not only don't understand, but really can't comprehend the extent of what the world will be like, what technology will be like. So, but let me just lay a little quick foundation and about what characterizes this brain in mid-development, and then touch a little bit on just these statistics that are so alarming, and then introduce Gray, who serves as the admissions director for a residential program, one of the few in which kids are not locked up. If you don't want to stay, they won't keep you. So you have to have a commitment to change. So we're going to pick Gray's brain to see what does he think about the kids he's seeing, and how different are they from the kids who don't get into his programs, because for every one that does, there are probably dozens who need it but don't receive it. So what do we know about the brain in Homo sapiens and humans? At ages 12 to 18, it's still developing, particularly the later parts of the brain, the front of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, which involves planning, judgment, impulse control, all those things that we joke teens are lousy at. There's a heightened sensitivity towards reward, towards a novelty. We prioritize excitement over kind of mundane activities. We have a fast responding amygdala, the part of our brain that responds to emotion. And so we're much quicker to go to extremes of emotion. And girls, particularly teen girls, are characterized that way as kind of an emotional mess. There's more neuroplasticity, meaning you're trying to figure out how you're going to live your life, and the brain is beginning to form pathways for habits and experiences. Socialization takes a role. We now are aware that while parents play a role, it's clear by the teenage years peers play a much larger role in shaping who we think we are, where we belong. We're more willing to take risks in the face of experimentation. We slowly are developing more capacity for abstract thinking and moral reasoning. We're figuring out who we are, and our adaptability and our resilience is still contingent upon the same variables that they were contingent upon when we were just children, which is sleep and safety and structure and good diet, etc. And we've lost sight of that. When you poll teenagers, you find that a very small percentage are getting enough sleep, eating a good combination of foods, having enough aerobic activity during a week, spending way too much time on screens. The kids who are doing the best spend maybe 2 hours a day on screens, including school and gaming. So there's kind of this brain in development in terms of its myelinization, meaning the protein sheaths that are forming on our 80 billion brain cells. And yet, in our society, we've exposed teens to the things that we adults are exposed to, and then we wonder why they don't cope with it well in light of what I've just said. Last 7 generations of teens in the United States have a higher incidence of major depression. We think post-COVID, probably 1 out of 2 or 3 teens will have a major depressive episode. And as we've talked about, depression here is episodic. So you have it this year, you may cycle out of it next year. So we talk about incidence, how many people have it at any given time, which we think now is 10 to 15% of teens, which is really high. But we also talk about prevalence, which is how many people have it over time, because teens will cycle in and out of depression. You don't cycle in and out of ADD or anxiety or learning disabilities. You either have it or you don't. And when we look at cycling in and out, we think that probably right now 1 out of 2 teens will have a major depressive episode before they're 18. So it's pretty significant. And I think the things that face teens today in terms of figuring out who they are, socialization, academics, identity, family, future, etc., I don't think they're a whole lot different than 50 or 100 years ago. I think the introduction of technology and social media has introduced so much more pressure that issues that were once a lot easier to kind of work your way through. And so when we ask the question, and I'll throw it to Gray and he'll tell us a little bit about himself, are teens struggling because they're fragile and the world is heavier, and that's why, or are teens struggling because the world is just so goddamn heavy that no matter who you are, all the lemmings at some point are going to go over the edge. And since this is the generation we're preparing to take care of us when we get old and move on to the next generation, what are we doing? And have we created? We've talked about songs before, the 30,000 pounds of banana in the truck heading down. Have we created a truck with 30,000 pounds of bananas that eventually is going to crash? And so, Gray.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Welcome. Gray was just in the studio recording a song for us because he can sing, actually, believe it or not. The rest of us try, but he sings. So we had him hang around.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and including your progression through your teenage years.
Sure. So my name is Gray.
We know that.
Yeah.
We know your name is
Okay,
Gray.
you got
Yeah, we all know you here. You don't, and the people listening, they don't really give a shit.
Yeah, you
So it
don't really
doesn't
care.
matter.
So I've been out here in Utah since I was 8 years old. I'm a biracial kid, come from a mixed family. Dad was a Job Corps center director for 20 plus years, graduated and focused in counseling. Mom's a nurse, 1 in 9 kids. So, I mean, my teenage years, I think culturally, I had a very Southern upbringing. So very much, your duty, your honor, you do good in school, you go to college, you graduate, and man, school was tough for me. And figure that because I'm a musician. So I'd be in math class thumping myself because all my classmates would be looking at the board and taking notes, and I'd try, and then I'd zone out, and then I'm thinking about music, or I'm thinking about an audition, or I'm thinking about a song I want to write. And so, the academic setting was tough for me, and it's been interesting. During COVID, music stopped, live performing, so I was without work. I've been working professionally as a performer since I was 14, and now it's done. There's nothing. So roofing and tiling, landscaping to make money, pay rent. And I had gone through recovery myself through addiction. in 2018 is when I got clean and got myself figured out, and that kind of introduced a new career to me. I was like, I want to get involved in the treatment world, and I've always loved working with teens. I just feel like I relate to them, and I'm always fascinated by them because it's like like you're saying, there's so much going on during that stage of development. I remember like in my first semester reading like Piaget's stages of development and just being stuck on the adolescent part and just being like, there's so much going on. There's so much learning, and it's interesting the things that they prioritize. So I found a job at a Livestrong House in Syracuse, Utah. It's a residential treatment program and a therapeutic boarding school. We are majorly a transitional program. So 90% of our boys are coming from wilderness therapy, other, intensive outpatients or, lockdowns. Most of our boys, mild substance abuse, which in today's terms, I think most teens have dabbled in THC, nicotine, Benadryl, DXM, those kind of things that, the kids have been passing around now. Back when we were younger, it was weed, right? And that was kind of it. But the thing that I've seen is I don't think we are that much different either, Sam. I think that we have to consider there's a big thing that separates us from their experience, and that is social media. I can remember life before social media. Then I remember when MySpace showed up. And for me, the thing I always remember when I go, that's when things took a turn, was the top 8 on MySpace. Do you remember the top 8?
Yeah, that was
Do you remember the top 8, Sam?
Everybody.
Yep.
That to me was when we turned the key, because that was when it was validation. It was people were obsessed with it. If your best friends, and if your best friends and you got in a fight as a teenager, can you imagine? They're out of your top 8, and now that's showcased for your entire network to see. So everybody's fascinated. So I think the difference is we didn't have all the eyes on us, even though we felt like we did. We didn't have the eyes of people we don't know, random people who see a post from somebody else ending up on your page. That wasn't it. So there's a need to impress. And then we target their demographic with all of our media. I mean, we look at political cycles. What was the biggest thing? Podcasts, influencers, and it worked. And that's the language these kids speak, as where our language is a little bit different.
So the kids that are coming in, you say a lot of them come from like Boulder programs and down in southern Utah. So they've already been somewhat. Their system has been shocked because they sent them out in the wilderness for 2 weeks to wander around
6 to 8 weeks.
and give them nothing, and then they have to earn each thing. In our documentary,
shock
we
anybody?
followed
Yes.
kids around, and when we made the documentary Tough Times, Resilient Kids, we followed kids around in one of these outdoor programs for a week as they were hiking around, and as they made progress, they would get a backpack, or they would get this, or they would get that. But if you look at the kids that are coming to you, can you name even one for whom technology wasn't a central part of their lives?
No.
Right. So it begs the question, and then we have to ask, is it toxic? Is it the case that at their ages they shouldn't be exposed to social media? A number of countries now are banning children under 14 from having any access to social media, and there's some pushback about it. But there's controversy about this fine line of creating a media that draws kids in, but not creating a media that hurts them. So in your program, while the kids are with you, what's the length of stay? How long are they with you?
Our boys, the length of stay is 9 to 12 months.
Okay.
While they're with us.
And when they're with you, are they allowed to have cell phones?
So for the we're a milestone program, so we have milestones that they accomplish to get more privileges, more freedoms, more autonomy. So yes, here's how we treat it though, because our owners, Mark, Paul, and Eddie, they set out to replicate a home environment. Because we can lock a kid away. I went to treatment. You can put me in a room and get me sober and detox me. My biggest fear is going to be going home, because I have family dynamics that stemmed the addiction. I have social, friends that I really shouldn't be in touch with. I haven't practiced these things in the real world. So that's our goal, is to get them here and slowly introduce real life factors back in while they have a structure and a support and a treatment team and a therapist and a life coach. So a phone is important. And there's some parents that call and they're like, "You're not going to give them a phone, are you?" And I go, "We could not. That would be great. But then we'd be cheating you because they need to practice."
Because they go back cold turkey.
Right.
It's like, but so, the Hershey School that I've been to a few times lecturing, they're a family environment. So there's a house parents who live there, and a group of kids. Is that how Live Strong House operates? So there's house parents?
Yes, sir. So our young adult program, it's 3 boys to 1 life coach. We have 2 homes that actually have married couples that are the life coaches there. And then in our adult program, we have 6 boys in a house, and they have a married couple as their life coaches. But it's not until that 4.5 month mark, if they're buying in and they're doing the work, that we introduce them a Gab phone first. So they get a Gab phone. That is text, phone calls. You can take pictures on it. You can't send them or receive them. You can't download any apps. It is just like, you wanted a phone? Here's your phone. How do you do with it? Do you turn it into your teacher when it's time to go to school? Do you turn it into your life coach? Don't allow them to take it in the bathroom. Are you sneaking? Are you abusing? Can we trust you? Then at the last stage in the program, which they're reaching at about the 9 to 10 month mark, that's when we consult with parents and say, it's time to reintroduce a smartphone. Do we want to give them their old phone back? Do we need to give them a new one that's wiped clean? No Snapchat, no old contacts, no dealer's information's in phone, all of that kind of thing. But that's what we do for phones.
So it's stages of phone tech, and that would then be stages of applications.
Yes, sir.
Right, accessing to applications, right? But what else? Is there anything else?
Sure.
That they access in your staged program? Do
Absolutely.
They get home visits? Do
Yes,
they
sir.
get what else?
Yeah. So when they're first getting in, we start it very simple. As it's important to all of us, you can imagine what it is to a teenager. Music is huge. So when they're out in the wilderness, as Sam was just saying, there's no MP3s, there's no phones. I mean, maybe somebody in their group has a guitar and they jam around the campfire. We have a lot of boys that come in and are kind of interested in picking up guitar, so we have a whole studio for them. It's like, you liked when your group mate would play, come figure it out, right? So we introduce a MP3 to them, and in the first stage, 75 songs. And the songs that you select,
You start them off with Perry Como and Frank Sinatra.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
you make them really appreciate the music all the way.
Some Conway Twitty.
Moving forward. Right, Mel Torme.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, but we the songs that they put on there, we say they have to be appropriate. And the beauty of YouTube now is people make clean versions of every song. So even if there's some like trap hidden underground rapper that the kids listen to, we can usually find it on YouTube, and then we will download it, but we check and make sure those songs are appropriate. Next milestone, 75 more songs. Next milestone, 75
So
more.
you're desensitizing them
Correct.
to the real world, right?
Correct.
You're reintroducing the real world to them and hoping that this 7/24 experience over multiple periods of time, which is why inpatient psychiatry is dead, because it's too expensive to keep kids in inpatient programs. When I first started, kids were kept 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, and now if they're not harmful to themselves or others, 3 days,
You're out.
They're out, because the inpatient psychiatry programs are thousands and thousands of dollars a day.
Thousands.
Right, because it's hospital-based.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
so it begs the question, if you can't change the world, how do you help the next group of teenagers deal better with the world, be more resilient? With resilience is defined as coping in the face of adversity, not recovery,
Sure.
but coping. So now you do all this with them.
Right.
And I mean, I guess it would be like someone has a problem with obesity and they come into a program and you slowly introduce more foods to them and
Sure.
give them more choices. So, but is that the solution? Before we end our first segment, is it the case that given the toxic world we have, and if you track mental health problems, if you just look at the statistics of mental health problems today, the numbers, the sheer numbers of kids that have anxiety or depression, or and when you ask teenagers, do you have friends who are depressed? They all say, yeah, I have a friend who's depressed. So if you can't change the technology and the evolution of the technology and the culture, then do we need to stress inoculate every teenager? Are we missing the boat by saying mental health care is for those who don't have good mental health? And we're going to wait to see if you have good mental health. Okay, you're on your way.
Right.
But should we assume that every teen, in light of what's going on, is at some point vulnerable? Kids you wouldn't think
Right.
are somewhat vulnerable. And so does every teen need to come through a Live Strong house? Does every teen who would no problem, even if you're having no problems, you hit your sophomore year of high school, you finish your sophomore year, and you go to the Live Strong house for the next year.
Right.
And in Live Strong house, you live and you do some schoolwork, and then you can come back and continue on like, a Mormon mission for 2 years, right?
Sure.
Right.
Or military.
Or military.
Right.
Yeah, the same thing. But
Right.
but the military, you're supposed to give it. They're not interested in what you're going to get from them.
Right.
Here, the goal is, I want to instill you with a set of qualities, a way of thinking, a pattern of self-discipline or self-control that will help you in this dangerous world that we've created for your own good.
That's
Right?
Exactly.
So and James has, David has a 3-year-old.
Right.
So he's so far away from that, and given his age, he can't even think about it.
Yeah, right.
Because he'll be 80 before she's, finishing her childhood, as it were. But you've got 3 that are in those years. Your oldest, James, is a little past adolescence.
she's a little past.
But you've got 2 that are still adolescents. So
Yeah.
what do you think about that idea?
Wow. As far as the social media,
As far as accepting that that mental health in the future is going to be contingent upon a boot camp of no less than 9 to 12 months to prepare you to deal with the craziness and the increased craziness of what the world is going to hold for the future.
wow. I would like to believe that there's a little bit of parenting involved there.
Are you patting yourself on the back
A little
here?
bit, yeah.
Oh,
Good,
okay, sure.
good.
We'll humor you. Yeah, go ahead.
Abide by that. No, because for example, I see a lot of kids that are going through a lot of the things you're talking about that are my kids' friends. My kids are half the time they hang out with their friends, they come back and they're like, oh, I don't like hanging out with my friends. All they do is sit in the basement and vape and watch videos. My kids are a little more outgoing and want to go do stuff. And
So before we end here, so does that mean we're going to give them a test when they turn 15? You take
Right.
this resiliency test,
Right.
and we put you in this VR environment, and if you make good choices, we say fine, you don't have to go to Gray's program.
kind of maybe an undercover boss type situation.
Right, an undercover boss. But the reality is it such a bad idea for us to start a program to say to parents, every parent worries, even you saying, oh, my kids are fine, you still worry,
Oh, absolutely.
right? And so
Because that can change.
maybe we say to parents, and again, part of the problem is
influence.
cost, right? Because these things are expensive, but the cost of mental health care is so dramatic that maybe we say, hey, we're going to start a program, and we're going to invite parents to send normal kids. And I'll end with this before our break. When I opened my practice, I thought, I'm going to have one day, Well Child Day. And on Well Child Day, because I used to tell teachers to send kids to the principal when they're doing well, to blow the principal's mind. Well, why are you down here, Bobby? Well, the teacher says I'm doing really great. What the hell? Why did she send you down to me? Right? Okay. So I was going to have a Well Child Day. And on that day, parents could bring their kids who were doing great. And I could say, great, you're doing a good job. This is great. I just check up on you, and you're doing good. And Nobody came. Nobody came. They only want to know what to do when you're at a tertiary care. There's very little, what we're arguing is primary care. Before there's a problem, assuming everybody's vulnerable, there's very little secondary care, which is identifying who's at risk. You have a family of substance abusers in your generations above, maybe you're at risk. It's always tertiary care. Right. We don't want to think about that something could go wrong until it goes wrong. So we'll come back and talk about everything that's going wrong.
Let's do it. Let's take a little break here, and this little break is brought to you by Alamo, the voice of freedom, starring Gray. You're going to hear him sing a little number here for us, and then we'll be right back. Thank you, Brainers.
Keep your faith and hold on tight. My Savior's coming, we will be alright. When morning comes, if we don't wait, we'll be walking together into heaven's gate.
I see him now, he's waiting above. I can see the light and the glory of love. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Gray.
He's a pretty good singer, isn't he?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome back, Brainers. Sam, continue on for us.
Well, just a quick plug. What you were listening to was from our 7-part podcast of an original story by myself and Craig Clyde, and music by Graham Russell, and the lyrics by Graham Russell. And any of you listening have a couple of $1 million to invest, we're happy to bring it to the stage next week. We're looking for investors. Okay, so we're back, and during the break, I posed the question of, does the cure perpetuate the problem so you never really get anywhere? And off the top of my head, an example would be, there's a particular drug, psychiatric drug that was used. It's not used as much, and it's still used somewhat. And people would develop tardive dyskinesia, which is a movement disorder. Their schizophrenia would be better, but they'd be shaking. You couldn't stop the medicine, because when you stopped the medicine, the shaking got worse. So continuing to take the medicine managed the shaking. Now they're marketing a drug for tardive dyskinesia. So you take a drug for the side effect of the other drug, and what we find is that you start one drug and nothing has benefits and no liabilities. The swampland you're going to buy has some liabilities to it. That's why it's cheap. And so we get polypharmacy. We see children now on multiple classes of psychiatric medicines. They start on one, and just a very alarming recent study, and I wrote about it in one of my Psychology Today articles, was that have we created a toxic environment for kids with ADHD? And yes, stimulants have been in our environment for millions of years, and yes, everybody shows some benefits from stimulants, but if you really struggle with self-discipline, stimulants really help you. The problem is that more recent data is showing that at least half of the kids who start on a stimulant progress to a second or third medicine, progress to polypharmacy. Now, maybe that's because ADHD is a catalyst. You have poor self-discipline, then depression, anxiety, conduct problems, whatever, autism, it's going to be worse, right? Leave your self-discipline home one day. See what life is like. You'll have a great time for 2 or 3 days, and then the police will come knocking on your door. What did you do? Because the idea that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas is only true if you pay up. If you don't pay up, they won't let you leave, right? You're there forever. And then it perpetuates itself. So my point being is, have we created a system in which the treatment may relieve symptoms, but it's far from a cure, and it creates its own set of problems? And so these kids with depression, and again, we focused a lot on depression earlier on because it covers both worry and anxiety, which is really part of depression, and suicidal thinking of permanent solutions to your temporary problems. problems with friends, problems with family, whatever the case may be. Depression seems to be the umbrella under which all of this falls, and we have more medicines, more treatment programs, more people in counseling than ever before. And yet we're not stemming the tide. It's like the starfish. Throw one back, but two come on the shore. So you watch this trend continue, and the really last 7 generations of kids, so that's 70 years, there hasn't been 1 year, it's like inflation. The president says, inflation is down. See, we're doing better. Things are costing less. So it goes up and down. But when it comes to teenage mental health, in terms of who's got mental health problems, every year the numbers are greater than the year before. And it begs the question, are our treatments not helping? Are they just symptom relievers? And I want to see what Gray thinks about the kids he sees. But I'm reminded of this program in the mid-'90s out of San Diego, where they were getting a whole bunch of grants, and they take these kids. The outdoor program they took them on was a wagon train. And they put them on a wagon train, and they rode around. They'd have to walk like the hand carts with the Mormons, but and after a couple of weeks, they brought them back, and they generated this data. Look at how very low recidivism. The goal here is not just to get you better, because that's not hard, but to keep you better. And the data on a lot of these programs has been kids coming out look really good, and then you wait 2 years, and the majority of them are back having problems again. And everybody said, oh, wagon trains, we're going to put these kids on wagon trains. And then somebody investigated. You see how the world is today with fraud, and we've suddenly realized that half of the United States budget is being given away in fraud. Somebody figured out they were fudging the data. They made it all up. They did take the kids out in the wagons, and they made a lot of money themselves in doing it, but it didn't make any difference. The kids were just right back in afterwards. I mean, what's the return rate of is the solution? I mean, last part of this, the first episode, we said maybe the solution is we need to give everybody a treatment program before they have problems.
Yeah. Hey, I've been to treatment, worked for me. So, I mean, it's like, on one hand, sure, I think you have to break down what is treatment. I mean, treatment is, it's focusing on the client. It's building something around the client. And that's a big thing that when I'm talking to parents about our program is, I mean, Sam, I'm sure you see this with kids in school. Where things start to fall apart are in the traditional school setting. And it's not that they can't show up and do problems, or they can't show up and sit down. It's that we've applied like a very broad brushstroke over education in general. I was at a school I was at Roland Hall in Salt Lake, and I just struggled with math, with anything that wasn't history or writing. I was just struggling, and I was bringing down their testing numbers. So asked me to leave. So I went to a specialized educational programming services school with Eva and Ava Pickering in Sugar House. It was an open classroom, a lot like what our program is. So there's kids that are 5 years old. There's kids that are 8 years old. Me, and I'm a 8th grader. That's where I see it. And then when I start working at Livestrong, I go, of course. They individualized their approach to me. They knew where I struggled. Be it they gave me the standardized testing, or I forget all the testing it was, but they found out where the disconnect was. Was it executive functioning? Where was I struggling? And they built a plan around it. My math scores shot up 3 grade levels. I entered Judge Memorial totally fine. I still struggled during high school, but I got through. I graduated and did fine.
Right. So just one thing first.
Yeah.
The Pickerings, both of whom I think have passed away,
yes,
were twins, identical twins, who spent their entire life together.
Mm-hmm.
We should do a show on
them and their dogs.
Them and their dogs. They were very good educators.
Yes.
They tried to start a school. I've known them because I've been in practice 50 years here. And they were a resource. We don't have that kind of a resource now. But I think, but I'm speaking to something different. What you're speaking to is identifying the reason someone is struggling not by saying, well, you don't know math, so here's math,
Right.
but identifying, as a neuropsychologist does, what's the underlying weakness that you have. You mentioned the term executive function, which is how you do what you do,
Right.
how you organize or plan, and identify that. And then, because you can learn strategies, and knowledge is, math is knowledge. You can teach somebody math anytime at any age, whereas if you don't understand physics at age 15, you're not going to understand it at 25 or 35. That's critical thinking.
Sure.
Okay, so fine. So some kids get, because of the one-size-fits-all idea, and remember, education, we've discussed this in previous episodes, that schools were created in the United States to keep kids out of the workforce. There wasn't really any intent to educate them, and there wasn't really any intent to teach them anything they needed to know about being good workers or living strong in the community, because why would you want to do that?
Right.
So I am very cynical about the whole thing. But so that's a different story. That's kids who struggle in school become disenfranchised and then act out or whatever.
Sure.
Right? So the question to ask is, when you look at the population of kids that come into your program,
Right.
can you break them into groups? Can you break them into a group of kids who were otherwise emotionally healthy, but who were so turned off by their failure in school, which is considered, kids think if you can't read well, you're stupid. I mean, look at what we've done and allowed that to happen, right? So what percentage of kids who struggled in school became disenfranchised?
A lot.
Okay, what percentage of kids who had temperament problems, impulsive, hyperactive, inattentive, didn't fit in and became disenfranchised? What percentage of kids early on had problems with anxiety or depression? Not that biology is destiny, it affects probability.
Sure.
And first grade teachers, in looking at their classrooms, are very good at predicting kids who are going to have problems with anxiety.
Sure.
Not let alone inattention, but anxiety. And we don't really do anything about it. I'm just curious, can you compartmentalize them? And is there then this controversial group of kids who seem to have it all, don't have any learning disabilities, don't have any mental health problems, who for one reason or another just fall off the edge of the world and end up with you?
We totally have. We have the boys that are definitely, you look and you see depression, right? You just see lack of motivation, school refusal, truancy, right? They can't get up out of bed. They can't make it to the next class. So in turn, like you were saying earlier, with that added stress, familial stress, parents, or heaven forbid, which we see a lot, there's two really successful siblings. And then there's this one.
Right.
So you add that on top of it. And it's stuff that we don't think about, right?
The lived experience.
The lived experience. Or there's the middle child. Or we get...
Although I just wrote an article on the myth of the middle child, the hoax of the middle child.
Okay.
It's on my Psychology Today website. Research doesn't support it at all.
Okay.
So we'll take that out of it. But you're absolutely right that your place in the family, not your number, but your place. I had a kid who was struggling with two siblings tell me they're setting me up because when they make me look bad, then mom and dad don't notice that they have problems too. And so I brought the two kids in to talk to them.
Right.
And eventually they admitted, I'm getting C's, he's getting D's, so I'm going to tell mom he got a D.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Oh,
So all those experiences. But your kid with depression that you mentioned, was this a kid who at age 7 was also depressed?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
there's this, not that biology is destiny, it affects probability, but
Right.
biologically, he's a Hemingway. If you know the Hemingway
Sure.
family, everybody's depressed. Right.
And then, but then we also have those kids where, they get there and they conduct themselves well. They're polite. They sit down. They do their work, and then they're on their way out of here. And it's almost like, what were they here for? And certainly, there's the couple kids in the program where maybe parents just didn't have boundaries in place, and then kid got in trouble, got a DUI. Then all the guys at dad's country club found out, and dad said, we got to move on it now. So then really it's about that familial side where we're not dealing with the same things as the depressive kid or this or that, but now it's about working on that parent-child bond where this kid goes, you never cared till I got in trouble and embarrassed you. So no, I don't respect you.
But that kid's going to, in a triage model,
Right.
the kids who end up in programs like yours are so far gone
Right.
that the probability of the program helping them is diminished,
Sure.
as opposed to kids who aren't as impaired.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
in the war, they triage the soldiers, and some of them are hurt worse than the others, but they're going to die. So come on over here. Let's help this other guy. But that is a little closer to our model of stress inoculating all kids. The kid has done pretty well. He had a faux pas. It was a big faux pas.
Right.
And maybe he doesn't need this kind of a program, but this will insulate and protect him because he comes in with already a set of values, some identity, some idea of who he is as a person.
Right.
Et cetera, right?
Sure.
And the other thing is your comment about treating the person individually, right? So we've created this diagnostic system. I'm editing a second edition of my book on the diagnostic system, right? And I've just finished the last chapter about what's going to happen. And this polythetic Chinese restaurant menu system, 2 from column A, 2 from column B.
Sure.
And then we label them and put them together and say, well, they're homogeneous. They're all depressed. They all have anxiety.
They must get
Right.
it.
They all get the same treatment. It's clearly, with the advent of technology and bioinformatics, the ability to really look biologically at people and genetically, I think what I'm hoping is the psychiatry is defeated, meaning that the juggernaut of financial control that the Psychiatric Association has had, they create the diagnostic system, they sell you the manual, and they make hundreds of millions of dollars. They have an interest in perpetuating the system. So there'll be a next DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual you're familiar with.
Yes, sir.
James and David are not, but and that's the one outcome. They'll do another version of it.
Sure.
But there's a strong push to say, no.
Right.
That we need to do a better job of individualizing each person in terms of not just liabilities, but strengths.
Right.
And our interventions, you could get some of the same intervention as him, but it's much more individualized.
Yes.
And that's a great future, but the risk of it is the consumer understanding the algorithm and the probability, like with Wikipedia, where all of a sudden you asked a certain question and it gave you an answer that was biased to whoever wrote the Wikipedia, or better yet, a Chat GPT who gave you some interesting answers about people because of the way it was programmed, right? And so then you have that whole other issue of transparency.
Right.
And people understanding, well, I'm going to say you have this problem, but how do I arrive at that? And what does that mean? And we'll see. I don't know. But I know that this polythetic Chinese restaurant system, 2 from each column, is going to go away because I'll ask you, 3 kids come into your program with diagnoses of depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and some oppositional behavior, not real conduct disorder.
Right.
Tell how similar are those 3 beyond the diagnoses?
No. Like that's the thing is it looks so different depending on the boy, depending on, I've even seen, it's interesting how you start to recognize, like I've had a lot of boys from Florida. There's kind of a through line. They're very different, but there's kind of a cultural through line on the struggles that they're having, right? Our substance abuse boy, that maybe has a little bit less of the depressive side. His is very different than the depressed kid or the ADHD kid who stumbled upon weed and found peace for the first time in his life.
And the only thing I'll say is we shouldn't refer to the diagnosis as indicative of the person. Because we say the ADHD kid as if that's who he is.
Sure.
The kid with ADHD.
The kid with ADHD.
Right? Just
thank
so
you.
our listeners know.
You.
Because it's rampant in my field. Oh, the ADHD kid. Oh, the learning.
Sure.
Would you want to be defined by your weakest quality? Oh, that short guy, Sam Goldstein.
Oh, man, I have, and I think that's probably why it's natural to do it. That was totally me. That was the addict guy.
But go ahead. I interrupted you. But
no, but the thing that what you had asked at the very beginning was about, like, do we need a program like this for all teens, for everybody, kind of a rite of passage to get through. Here's what I've seen with ours is we individualize, especially the academic approach, because we know that the traditional school setting for some kids is just not it, right? And so then we deal with IEPs and 504s, and then they have to fight the district, right? And our academic director is on legal battles, working to try and get them to support them coming here. So there's individualized approaches to therapy, to all of that. But the thing that we do with all of our boys, they learn the same universal principles. If I go about getting what I want the wrong way, I'm going to get just that and more. Being a good person, accountability, integrity, humility, resilience, those are our milestones, right? The thing that we work with all of them on, which I do agree with you, Sam, we need this, is they all wake up at the same time each morning. The adult house, the young adult house, they all go to the gym first thing in the day. Our school doesn't start till 10 a.m. because that's when the adolescent mind, it's finally getting to a place to absorb some information, that we time our breaks deliberately to give them that space in between. If they get in trouble, if they go to the gym and they find a vape on the ground, we don't run from that. We look for it because, again, we're trying to replicate a home model so that they can find a vape in public. How are they? And it's interesting to watch them pick it up in the beginning of their stay. And at the end of the stay, that same kid who we went through that with is talking to the younger ones like, bro, you should probably just toss that. Just get rid of it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. And you go, wow, would you look at that, right? You give them responsibilities. We have a student body office. We have a student body officer. We celebrate their wins. When I took over the substance side of things, I said, you guys, we definitely crack down when they mess up. But nobody's talking about the fact that this kid just went 6 weeks in wilderness sober. That's the longest he's been sober in 3 years. And nobody said anything about it. But teens, you said at the beginning, reward. That is the number one thing in their brain, being acknowledged, being validated, and that's why social media sinks right in. I got 100 likes today. That fit was amazing. Or I posted a video of me singing and 100 people. That's exactly what they want.
Becomes their identity.
So if you don't reinforce your child in the things that they're doing right, you only focus on the negative, that's what's going to happen. That's training that works with the parents. Of course you call out the thing when they embarrassed you because that shocked you. But when's the last time you told them, hey, dude, I know school's hard for you, but hey, we upped it from last semester. Props, man. Let's keep it up. It sounds kumbaya, but that's the stuff that goes the furthest with our kids is when you acknowledge it, right? And then when they do mess up, it's not slapping them on the wrist. It's asking them questions. Dude, you made it like 8 weeks. What happened with the vape, man? What was going on?
Sam says that a lot. It's recognizing the strengths instead of the weaknesses.
Yes, there's risk factors. We're the protective
because we're all
factors.
prone. It's baked into our species that you got to pay attention to the risk. If something's wrong, you better watch out or you're going to get eaten by a bear.
Right.
So that's part of who we are, and part of who we are is, as I write in our book Tenacity, is we're belief-driven. Mm-hmm. And when you believe something, it becomes your reality. Mm-hmm. And the beliefs we tend to gravitate towards are those that are going to keep us alive. Like, your skin's a different color than mine, you're dangerous.
Right.
Even if that belief is irrational, once you buy into that, and we're afraid of difference, you look different than me, and therefore there's something about you that's going to harm me.
Sure.
And then, we're an aggressive species. We've had these discussions in almost every episode. That's how we got where we are.
Right.
500,000 years ago, you wouldn't share your food with me. I hit you with a stick and took your food. There was a selection for violent, aggressive behavior. I mean, the Maya maybe is the last violent, aggressive culture in North America, in the Americas. That's why they were, because bigger and stronger, that's the way it is. That's the way of the world. And then, so all of a sudden we have these frontal lobes that say, well, maybe we should be nicer. But in the battle of the brain, lobes, the lobes of the brain, front of the brain's going to lose every time. Because the front of the brain's going to go, well, let's make peace. Let's talk about it. This is what Freud talked about, the id, the ego, and the superego. The superego says we have rules. We have to follow these rules. People are depending upon us. Oh, look, I shouldn't do this. I have better self-control. And the id just says, screw it.
Yep.
If it's there, take it.
Yep.
And if somebody tries to stop you, hit them over the head with a stick.
The question for you, Sam, is, so here's one funny thing. Again, like I just said about me being in school, watching other kids do it, and then me trying it and not working. That's one of the biggest problems with all of our boys. They started vaping because their friends were vaping.
Yeah, they're not good criminals.
They started doing something because all their friends were doing it
all the time.
Right. And so then I can remember the valedictorian from my school. I tried so hard to do it good in school, and I couldn't do it. This kid threw parties, almost got kicked out, was all over the place. You could see he was high at school. Valedictorian, graduated top of his class, gave the speech, did everything, right? That's a lot of our kids go, dude, I was just doing exactly what my friends did, but they could still do their schoolwork and get home on time, and I just couldn't do it. that's where the individualized part comes in, because it's time to educate them about themselves. You can't change it unless you start to understand. You can't just slap a diagnosis on them and say, you have ADHD, so we're going to give you Vyvanse or Adderall, and then it's going to be fixed.
Yeah, because it doesn't. We know that long-term studies don't demonstrate that. So let's take a break, and when we come back, we can skip the part about dogs, because we all agree we'd be better off if we had the brain of dogs.
Always.
We wouldn't have as much entertainment, but
We'd be better off if our teens were dogs.
we'd be better off if our teens had dog brains until they turned 21 and moved out of our house.
There we go.
They might be better off. But when we
21.
come back, let's solve the problem. What are we going to do?
All right. Thank you, Brainers. Now we're going to take another number from Alamo, The Voice of Freedom, featuring Gray. Enjoy.
Maybe I'm already dead, and this is as good as it gets. And this is my last farewell on my way to hell. Jesus has turned me down, and he's sending me his regrets. Then the devil is on his way to collect his debt.
Welcome back, Brainers. That was great. Once again, a big hand. Thank you so much. Beautiful work. Alamo, The Voice of Freedom, available on all podcast outlets. Please, you can get all 7 episodes now. They're all available.
And they're free.
And they're free.
Free.
Sure.
Can't beat that. All right,
No,
Sam.
and they're free.
Where do we go from here?
Well, you guys weren't aware that in the sequence of events, Gray mentioned Piaget or some of the developmental theorists, that we now have a new stage of development that comes after adolescence. It's called pre-adulthood.
Wow.
All right, and it's 19, because you're a teenager, 12 to 19, 19 to 24. It's the riskiest time in life. And they hide behind, well, the front of your brain doesn't finish developing and myelinating till you're in your mid-20s, so it makes sense. And you can hide it behind all you want to, but I know some 16-year-olds who are very mature and very capable. And so, how much does society infantilize us?
Yeah, is that just
Keep
a
us-
stopgap?
Keep us like babies, right? How much is society doing that? And if we agree that, and again, I want to come back to Gray here but if we agree that our teens are at risk, meaning they're at risk for greater impairment and adversity that reduces the pleasure and quality of their lives, that adds to the burden of society costs, etc. If we accept that, and we accept that the one solution is turn off the internet or teach people to deal. My model on our work, Bob Brooks and I, is you can't build walls high enough or doors strong enough to keep the world away. So we have to begin teaching kids early on how to manage the world, right? And I agree that, as Gray pointed out, some kids find it much easier to do. I engaged in a lot of adolescent things in New York City that, had it gone wrong, could have ended me up in a lot of trouble. But it didn't.
Amen.
It didn't because what was it? I had better self-discipline, maybe. I had an intact family life with expectations. I had assets in terms of my ability to go to school and without much work do
little bit
very
of luck.
well.
Yep.
Some of it is luck, right? I remember some of it being, being at the right place at the right time.
Sure.
Some of it is luck. But if we agree foundationally that we're in trouble, and people don't want to talk about that, when our current president says this is going to be, everything's getting better, look, your salary, your quality of life, what he hasn't said is our mental health. Mm-hmm. Because if we don't figure out a way to turn that around, then mental illness is going to become the not the exception, but the norm.
The norm.
At the rate we're going, by 2040, everybody will be taking some kind of psychiatric medicine, either because their tertiary care fall over the edge or because they're at risk and somebody says, well, you're sort of at risk. We call that shadow syndrome. You have some symptoms of depression. It causes you some trouble, but you really don't meet full criteria. But here, take this Prozac because it'll really help your nervous system a little bit. And it does. Pills don't substitute for skills, but it helps a little bit. But we're going to get to the point where we're going to do it in a primary way. We're going to say, when kids come to kindergarten, a teacher's going to say, well, okay, does he know his letters, his colors, his shapes? Is he on a stimulant or an SSRI? Or, what's he taking? Because he can't come to school if he's not taking one of those protective medicines. So our school system doesn't completely screw him up, right? So we're going to insulate you. That's the idea of, should these drugs be over the counter?
Right.
And now, you turn the television on, and after all these years of saying, hey, antibiotics and those other medicines, you need a prescription for those. You need a doctor. Well, now there's Dr. Drew, who's, I think, just after the money, and let him sue me for saying that, who's now in advertising, hey, here's your kid. It even has ivermectin. I mean, they've even fallen to the ivermectin, which I think ivermectin does some things, but for a while it was really vilified. Remember, during COVID, the idea of ivermectin. And now here, why wait online at the pharmacy? Why have to go to the crowded Instacare? Just look up your symptoms in the book. And so we're moving in that direction.
Yep.
Patient,
Certainly
heal
are.
thyself. Diagnose and heal thyself. So
the part that you said, diagnose thyself, is the biggest thing. I mean, look at there's hot words, therapeutic hot words that have taken over. And I know this because I have somebody in my life who sends me how to know if somebody is a narcissist. And that word narcissist is so popular. The word depressed, anxiety, I have that bipolar disorder, narcissist, what's the other one? Anyways, it's become trend. So these kids who are on their phone are watching, and do you feel sad, this, that, and the other, then you probably have this.
And what you get is false positives.
False
You get a lot of false positives. But the word that we used to use was neurotic.
Neurotic.
Sure.
Are you neurotic? And what the heck is that? Are you narcissistic?
And gaslighting.
And again, we've talked about personality here on a previous episode, but we've defined mental illness as something that bothers the person that has it. Mm-hmm. And personality disorders bother everybody else, but not the person that has it.
That's a good way to put it.
And that's how we've defined it.
It's a great way to put it.
When we've talked about it. But so what do we do? So if I put you on the spot and I said, in building this plan for the future, okay, we're going to insulate every kid. And maybe every kid goes for a month, and at the end of a month they say, a month is enough for you. You guys need to stay longer. Right? Maybe? Right. Okay. So tell me, from going in to coming out, the kinds of thinking changes these kids make, because you alluded to one, which is to not just be in the moment and to stop and consider the future ramifications of picking up that joint or whatever from the ground, right? And for a lot of us, that's what keeps us from falling over the edge. I might get caught.
Right.
I don't want to get caught. Or, this moment of infidelity. Not that I think about that because I never think about that because I have this wonderful wife.
Sure.
But that moment of infidelity that so many people fall prey to, then because they don't think about, is it really worth it?
Right.
For the outcome over time or with money or whatever the case may be. So tell me in your mind, I put you on the spot, the 3 or 4 thinking changes you see in that makes these kids better able to now deal with life.
Before I can even say that, I have to say that we are very transparent with every parent that comes through our door because we know the financial sacrifice they're about to make, right? And so one of the things that we always tell them is, if you have it in your head that bringing your kid here is going to be the thing that when he leaves, it's done. Now it's just happy trails from here on out. That's not it. Your kid is once he gets back in the real world, there is going to be some stumbling. And that's okay, because that's, even if you had never been to treatment and you have graduated top of your class, you're going to stumble. The biggest things that I see change with our boys, and this is, it's not in the Webster, but stick-to-itiveness. and you could call it resilience, you could call it determination. That's one of my favorite things. When the boys come in, I can't do that.
If at first I don't succeed, try again.
Yeah, absolutely. And that one's the hardest because a lot of our boys, and I have some that have been in treatment for a big part of their life who are, maybe have an ASD diagnoses or
autism.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
They have been told, oh, don't worry about that. Well, the staff will fill in for this part. Or if you're getting too stressed, let's just put it down for a while. And that's fine, but also you don't want to leave the kid there and on the other side of it being like, you're not getting up until you finish that problem and then having them melt down and, well, what's that going to create? That's trauma right there. Right. Sitting there going, I'm trying it, and it's not making sense to them and they're being penalized for that. The thing that I love with our boys is, and it's something as small as, and we have them doing activities every day. So they're on the mountain skiing Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. In the summertime, we have 2 boats. They're out there boating, learning how to wakeboard. We want to teach them new skills outside of the classroom. That's one of the biggest things. Some of our boys from the East Coast have never been skiing before. And they get up there and they do it. So then when they come back to the class and they go, I can't do this, we go, bro, what? It's too late to say that. We just saw you literally learn how to ski. You did great after one day of it. You compensatory skills
enjoyable
are
things are all those things that you do. They're also enjoyable.
Yes, sir.
So they can have a good feeling about it.
Yeah.
Learning something.
We play with them.
So they come in. You're saying they come in with a sense of helplessness, learned helplessness.
Oh yeah, huge.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so, and you say you individualize.
Yes, sir.
So at some point you have to appreciate that the temperament of some kids is to be, they're just born with a nervous system as set like they're in a dark alley in the middle of the night
Sure.
in a bad neighborhood. I'm
Right.
never going to get away. I'm never going to, right? So for each one, you're not trying to create Stepford wives. They're not in the Matrix. So you start with where each one is.
Right.
But I want to know the mindset at the end point. And so one point is perseverance. Keep going. Okay, so
Yeah.
but I want to know a couple of more points.
The next one is the expectations from when they leave, right? I do substance abuse and counseling groups with my boys. And the one thing I tell them is, before we sit down, I don't want you to sit down and roll your eyes because the older guy's going to start talking about drugs are bad, okay? I passed DARE. My mom still has my graduation thing on the wall. Every time I walk in, I go, you should probably take this down. I failed, right? Scaring them doesn't work. They think they're invincible. They don't understand.
That's part of being
a teenager.
Yeah, that's baked into your genes, believe it or not, because I see kids referred to me from the cystic fibrosis clinic or the diabetes clinic who know better and don't monitor their sugars or don't clear their chests. And as you talk to them, the idea of dying just is so foreign, even though they're sick and even though they're in the hospital for a week or 2 weeks.
Sure.
They
can't comprehend
evolution. If you started thinking about dying when you were 14, well, then you'll just quit. I'm not going to go do anything, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so perseverance,
and then the expectations. So learning how to, when they finish the program, by the time they come into the program, the first thing we are doing is, what is the goal by the time they're leaving? Are we integrating them back into the traditional school setting? Are they going to college? Are they going to a boarding school? Are they going to trade school? We want that at the very beginning, because if we don't have a goal in mind, that's the biggest part.
And is it dealing with teaching them how to deal with others' expectations, or teaching them to set expectations of their own
Yes.
and stick to it? Okay, so that's 2. And
boundaries and expectations.
And 3 is, obviously, we discussed the term resilience, which, when we published our first book on it 25 years ago, the publisher didn't want to use the term in the title because he said resilience is a material science term. It's used in material science to a material stretches and is resilient. If it then, when the force is relieved, it goes back to where it was. It's not damaged in any way. That's a resilient material.
Right.
And we said, no, this is different. But we persevered, and eventually they published Raising Resilient Children. Now, if I had a penny for every time the word is used, there's a makeup called resilience, right? So it's you want them to learn that whatever stressors come their way, to be able to compartmentalize or manage them and get through the expectations and the responsibilities of the day, right?
Right.
So that's 3.
Yeah, that's
right. Are there more?
I would say that the thing that I see our boys when they finish the program. A lot of times when they first come in, it's I hate my parents. They abandoned me. They left me at this treatment center. Right. They don't get it. They've never been here. And the thing that I always tell them is like, dude, you're right, period. It's not lost on me that this isn't the place you want to be.
Yeah, it takes the argument away immediately.
Immediately.
I just agree with you, right?
Yeah, this would suck.
When Evie says, I shouldn't have to go to bed early. Say, yeah, I hear you. I understand. Go to bed.
That's exactly it.
I appreciate your position. Now go to bed.
It's saying, and we tell that because it's easy. Parents instinctually want to rescue, want to jump in and be like, oh gosh, my kid's stressed. I got to jump in and save him. We have a therapist named Kim at our program who I love. She just says, sit in it. Just sit in it. Well, this sucks and I'm uncomfortable. I've never been good at math. Oh, I know.
So basically you want them to feel okay with where they are, because if you don't feel okay with where you are, then you've created a second problem.
Exactly.
Right? You're not in a good place and you're unhappy about being in not in a good place.
Yes. And so having our boys be able to think about it in a sense of I'm not asking you to look to abstinence from all drugs. That's impossible because our goal is to get you to college. Of course, you're going to be around your first beer or you're going to smoke with your friends. That's okay. It's not inherently bad. My thing is what happens when it turns into day 2 or day 3 or day 4? Can you make it to class?
But what if somebody says, somebody has the temperament to do that? You know, when I was a kid, I could put my drugs in a drawer on Sunday night,
right?
And I didn't take them out till Friday night.
Right.
But I had friends who, they consumed it until it was all gone. So some of it is understanding their temperament, right?
Absolutely.
Temperament has gone out the window to diagnosis. We used to talk about children's temperament. Slow to warm up.
Right.
The child who was boisterous, who was very outgoing, a little shy, a little withdrawn. And we didn't pathologize or demonize or moralize it. We just said, this is this child's temperament.
Yes.
And here's how you as a parent can interact with their temperament. So it's helping them understand, what are the limits of my temperament, right? But what about dealing? Where's the component of basically what I call dealing with stupid people? Right, resisting the temptation to engage and just having the self-discipline. Do you teach them to how to get through the world and not get distracted with all the craziness? I mean, that's what happens on the internet.
Yes.
An article I write a lot of articles, I guess, but the article I just finished was on how we've forgotten that there's somebody on the other side of the screen.
Right.
Right.
My question would be, do you and your kids argue?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why we put them in a house with 2 other boys and a life coach. We don't aggregate them. We don't have all 19 or 20 of them in a house because that's not realistic.
Right.
I'm not going to live in a house where I see everybody's bed in the same room.
And that's the Hershey model. That's the Hershey school. I don't know if you know much about the Hershey school.
A bit, not too much.
But that's the Hershey school model,
right?
Which still exists today. Started out taking kids who were foster or orphan kids, and then eventually it's gravitated towards.
This was in the UK, right? Was this?
No, it's in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Gotcha. Okay,
it's funded by Hershey.
Got you. Okay.
And the school has all these houses on the campus.
Sure.
And a big building with a rotunda that's bigger than the White House rotunda.
Wow. Okay.
That's a pretty impressive building. First time you go there, that's the first thing they take you to. And I've done workshops for the house parents on resilience.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very similar. I didn't realize Livestrong House, but it's a very similar.
Yeah, you had
model.
said at the very beginning that the peers have the impact and the influence of peers is growing, right? Even more and more. But we've known that about teens all the time. If I ask the boys when they first come in, what are the things you value most? Freedom, friends, maybe money sometimes, right? But it's really freedom and friends. So we put them in that townhome with 2 other boys with the hopes that things get awkward, things get frustrating. He used my toothbrush. So I told you 5 times, stop taking a half an hour shower. So do we step in as the staff? No. This is healthy conflict. So now it's, dude, that sucks. I get it. Oh man, I've had a roommate before they used my toothpaste. Oh dude, that sucks. What are we going to do? Yeah. Well, no, you need to talk. No. That'd be me.
And the kids I see in counseling, doesn't matter whether it's because they have a brain injury or depression or whatever. The first thing I ask them is, you need to figure out what are the 3 things your parents focus their attention on. And if you meet those 3 things, you can do anything else you want. And it's been interesting. I mean, I haven't done a research study on it, but for a lot of parents, it's it's school.
Yep.
It's, don't do drugs.
Yep.
It's come home at curfew. But for other parents, it's different things. But if you honor the three things that their folks, I just made this up, but
Yeah.
the three things, but it works.
It works.
Yeah, they give you a lot more leeway for other things, just
Right.
like the teacher who gives the kid who's a good kid who gets into trouble once a whole lot more leeway
Right.
than the kid who gets into trouble every day.
Right.
The teacher sees that, very differently. One of my favorite remembrances of my mother was I was a good student in high school. I mean, I played in a band. I was a rock and roller. I had long hair, but I went to school. I didn't miss class. I didn't go high. I didn't.
Right.
And one day I cut a class to go have lunch with my friends or something, and the dean called my mother because he never misses a class. This is a
Right.
bad trend for him to start. And my mother came in, and this little Jewish mother, and looked at the dean after he explained that I cut the class, and she said, "Wait a minute. Don't you have kids that miss a lot of classes?" "Yes." "Has my son missed a lot of classes?" "No." "Don't you have kids who are failing in school?" "Is my son failing? Isn't he on the honor roll?" "Yes." "So don't ever call me again. I don't care what he does."
She sounds like a black mom.
And she took me and walked out,
Yeah.
and he didn't bother me anymore, the dean.
Yeah.
But he never bothered me in the first place. But I think he thought this was I had long hair and I was kind of a hippie, and I
got
missed
him.
a class.
Yeah.
This was not in a what's the name of the movie of the kid who spends the
Ferris
day?
Bueller's Day Off?
Ferris
Bueller.
Bueller. Not like that, because I wasn't screwing up.
Right.
I think he thought this was the beginning of my screw up, so he was going to
Beginning.
Nip this in the
Nip it in the
bud.
bud.
this in
Yeah.
the bud,
Yeah.
and he was going to
that's-
cut it off. Okay, so we agree that there's a set of qualities in how you think, how you feel, how you interact with the people in your world
Right.
that insulate you in every day, whether it's adversity or not. We agree that the world that we've created for our children, this is mostly a new world, not third world, although I don't know enough about third world countries,
Sure.
but that world works against that. And technology, while there's a lot of good in technology, it seems to play such a large role against it that countries are now passing legislation that you can't have any technology. You can have a phone like your beginner phone,
Right.
but no web, no technology, no nothing. And when you open Pandora's box, I don't know how you ever go back, and can you really go back? I don't. So I'm not a fan of limiting access. Granted, a 9-year-old shouldn't.
I would
have
say I'm
access to-
very interested to see what the results of that are, like the long term, because
Right.
I see it as exactly delaying the inevitable. Because then they're going to get
Correct.
it, and it's going to be a shock.
Right, and that's
Right.
part of the reasons why teenagers in Utah traditionally have had such a high rate of problems with alcohol. I don't know what the current statistics are, but because they can't have it, it's not on the table. My dad owned a bar and grill. There was a bar in the house, there was wine on the table, and sure, I drank sometimes when I
Sure.
wasn't supposed to, but I learned, and I don't have an addictive personality.
You learned moderation.
So I learned, right? But the predominant religion here, the kids all of a sudden are in a car, it's Saturday night, and they buy some alcohol, and they have no idea of what it is, how to regulate it. They don't have any experience
Right.
with it, right?
And that's
one way or the other.
that's the biggest thing is it's just creating real world environments, but then just not leaving them out there to figure it out themselves, just providing them with scaffolding
Right.
and being what was that?
So we need to begin when kids are Evie's age, teaching them, because I think we all have the instincts of empathy and fairness and self-discipline and problem solving. I don't think we have to teach it to them. I think we have to give them experiences
Yes.
by which they figure it out, which is a strongly part of your program.
Right.
I mean, I think if the two kids with the toothbrush continue bickering and fighting, your house parent is going to intervene
Right.
and try and teach them some conflict resolution
And that
skill.
happens maybe 10% of the time.
Right.
90% of the time they figure it out.
Right, but so it's not just let them figure it out or die.
Right. No.
Right.
Life coach is still there.
Right. It's not naked and afraid.
Right.
Figure it out or die. But okay. So is that what has to happen? And what do our schools need to do? Because I'm not sure that the schools, I don't know if they're helping. I don't know if they're hurting. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but the continued emphasis on acquisition of knowledge doesn't seem to match with the future, with our future, which is knowledge is at my disposal in my technology anytime I need it.
Right.
So why are we still spending so much time pushing information on kids and not teaching them how to manage or how to use that information? So the schools and then parents.
My favorite.
Do we
topic.
need? So I was long of the opinion. So I get myself in a lot of trouble sometimes because I'm of the opinion that everybody, when you vote in politics, every one of us should have 10 votes. And to exercise your 10 votes before you take poll, you have to answer a quiz about what the politicians are running on.
I love
And
that.
depending on your score, you'll always get one vote. Even if you know nothing, even if you say, I'm voting for this guy because I like his hair.
Right.
Which is the Gavin, this is how Gavin Newsom thinks he's going to get elected, his hair. Right? But if you, depending on the score on the test, you know the questions, you get a 10. And everybody says, oh, that's not democracy. You can't do that. Okay, fine. Right. So my other thing was parents should have to take a test. You know, not that we're not going to let you get pregnant or whatever, but you can get pregnant, you can have a kid.
Right.
But if I screen you and I think you're going to raise an absolute asshole, which is a book I've always wanted to write, How to Raise an Absolute Asshole, but my publisher just keeps saying, my publishers, all of the ones I work for, have said, no, we can't do that. Although now there's some negative titles, so I'm hoping I'm going to be able to write my book of how to rate it. But if I determine, and who makes that determination, and where's the criteria that you're going to raise a complete asshole, you can have this kid, give him to me. I'm going to give him to some parents who are going to raise him to be okay. He's not your possession, which is what we think now.
Sure.
Kids are my possession. And then we get into this whole issue of abortion. It's my body. Yeah, but it's another beating heart in your body, and I'd like to see a little empathy for that beating heart. Not that I'm against abortion per se, but it doesn't even come into the discussion. And kids are seen as possessions. And I'm on a rant now, and we're out of time.
And you say you get yourself in trouble.
Yes, but I'll leave the end of the rant with divorce, because in what I do, I don't do divorce evaluations, but I get in the middle of it when kids have developmental problems and parents can't seem to agree.
Right.
And the courts seem to think that children are possessions. And even if you're an absolute asshole of a parent, if you've abused your kids, if you've neglected them, well, there should be some kind of reconciliation therapy where they bring you back. No, they should hit you with a baseball bat and send you on your way and relieve this kid of the potential abuse of having to go back with you. And the kids will say that. I don't want to go. I don't want to go to this. I don't want to. And, but you have to go. Mm-hmm. You have to go, right? Mm-hmm. So we continue to adhere to 18th century ideas of raising children and preparing them, and our teens are the consequence of that. We haven't even gotten to the tech companies, but we can all agree that something has to happen, and what I fear is that the something that has to happen will be pushed by some great tragedy. You know, not just a school shooting, but a bigger tragedy in which we realize that we've raised a generation of teenagers who are now young adults who are mentally ill, overwhelmed, unable to deal with stress, and ill-prepared to deal with the world. And in response, what do? They vote for communists. Well, sure, why not? Let's all become socialists. Because they don't have any idea of who they are or what the world is about. So maybe this is a better way. Right? And I'm not blaming parents for communism, but or for Mondami or for any of the other things that are going on. But, yeah, okay.
I love it. I love it.
I'm done.
I'm right here. I'm dialed in.
I'm done.
I dig it.
But we can all agree that we're all worried.
Yeah.
And I think if you stopped in the street, and maybe we need to take our podcast out to the street and ask people, are you worried about the next generation?
That would be cool.
We're going to find everybody's worried, and nobody really knows what to do.
Right.
Here. Thank you, Gray, for being with us. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Brainers. Thanks for being here. and we will see you again real soon with the next episode of Extreme Brains.
And if you listen to their stories,
Just because we said it doesn't mean it's true. You're on your own.